Long time no see, Jordan. How you been?
Long time no see, Will. I'm good. I'm good. Thank you for asking, sir.
Man, that trouble of trying to get us together
Ah,
has been
I love it. Gotta love technology, right?
holy crap. What was that? About 40 minutes of us trying to figure this out. That was lovely.
Oh, lovely. But we're here. We're here right now. Beautiful, sunny Phoenix, Arizona, and then where Will's at. I'm not sure if it's that nice and beautiful over where you're at, is it?
Oh, it's beautiful over here in
Oh,
Billings,
good.
Montana.
Oh, good. Yes, yes, I remember this. I wanted to let the audience hear where where you're at. Montana's beautiful. I haven't never been in that state.
It's the first time I remember saying I was home. Like I was driving back from Helena, which is the capital, and it's about a 4 hour drive, or yeah, roughly 4 hour drive back to Billings. And I was like, "Holy crap! I think I'm actually home." And I didn't call New York home when I came back from the Marines, but now I'm actually finally calling it home.
Oh, good. That's good. Yeah, I mean, for me, I was raised in Michigan and moved out to Florida to take care of my grandfather. Then I joined the Marines out there in 2004, 2008 in the Marines. So I myself had been all over, and then I'm like, what do I call home? Michigan, Florida, Arizona. Now I've been here for 16 years almost this year. So it's like I think at this point finally I could say Phoenix is home to me. So
Yeah, if I was actually to move out to Arizona, Flagstaff or Sedona would be the places I want to land up.
Flagstaff is very hipstery. I like it for that though. I like it. It's not a bad term of use, like hipsters are, but it's it's snowy. It's snowing probably right now, even there. I heard they got dumped on last night. It rained a lot here, which we desperately need it in Phoenix. Every rain that we could get, we need it. Um, but Flag, I heard got a pretty good snowfall. But it's a little too cold for my taste up there. I like Flagstaff in the summers and winters here in the valley or, Phoenix areas, in the surrounding cities. But in Sedona, oh, people travel all around the world to visit Sedona because of the Zen state that, Sedona gives. I actually, funny enough, because you've been in Okinawa yourself, relate Sedona and Okinawa together because of the Zen state that both those, well, city of Sedona and the country of Okinawa give. They're very, very Zen-like. They're very comparable in that regard. I tell people all the time that I would love to go back to to Okinawa, Japan. I would live there for sure. Beautiful.
Yeah, there's a few words over there from Okinawa, like ikigai, where it's like the four pillars of life, and that's why they have the most amount of centurions. I didn't know about this until I was actually hospitalized, and I learned a lot about ikigai, kaizen, wabi
Wow.
sabi, and like ikigai is what does the world want from you? What are you good at? How can you make money? And what do you enjoy? And that's your ikigai. And then
Oh wow.
kaizen is like your hold on a sec. Yeah, kaizen is like taking broken pottery and then using gold or platinum or silver to put it back together and actually finding the precious in it. And I think about how that has actually impacted my health and the way I look at the world
Oh,
because you and I have actually shared a similar part of our life being in Okinawa, but then how certain things have changed the narrative of how we look at the world, but then started giving more clarity.
yeah. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, that's a very spiritual thing to even relate on to something like you just mentioned there, where he's just taking something where pottery or your soul is just broken on the ground and you're putting it back together, but you're putting it back together in a better state of mind or a better physical the pot was good, but not as good as it can be. So you're putting it back together in better materials. That's cool.
It's like I know you and I were discussing before we actually started recording is, and you were giving me some feedback, some really, really good positive feedback of different perceptions or different ways to look at doing a podcast or interviewing. And like I was sharing with you, is even with that, it's like, hey, what kind of criticism or what kind of, I don't even want to use criticism, what kind of helpful hints can you give me to be able
Constructive
to,
criticism. Yeah.
yeah, to give me a better perspective? And
I listened to, I'm sorry, go ahead.
go ahead, you got it.
I was just gonna let you know real quick that I listen to a lot of podcasts. Anything from Oprah to um Jay Shetty to Mark. Um Shoot, I forget his last name. People will know if they listen to podcasts and they're listening to your stuff. To the angry therapist, everybody, the angry therapist records in his um garage, I think, for the most time until his house recently burned down. He's in LA. Um, so I have a lot of people that I listen to that have wide varying of like, some people just love being in the studio and sound, you know what I mean, can't interfere with anything. They're in there and they're either doing something like this remotely, interviewing, or they're literally in person across from the table from one another recording. So there's many different very styles, and I'm like, there really isn't in the podcast world, really, there is no right or wrong. I could give you the feedback and you could just take little pieces of like a puzzle per se and just put them together and what works best for you and what you want your podcast to be, and just go from there. But really, there really isn't any right or wrong. It's just like you said, it's constructive criticism and feedback. And, again, you're just starting all this out and you want to get the good word out. You want to help people normalize men's health.
Yeah, that actually is a nice segue. So, and to obviously you talked about your name and what actually brought you here, and why is mental health actually important to you?
So for me, it's been a journey. It's been a long journey because in my childhood, like I was going to mention to you prior to this and kind of what I wanted to touch base on, and we're kind of just going like in this particular episode, just kind of going like, let's talk about anything and everything, but kind of just not getting too far sidetracked. It's just like, let's focus on certain aspects. And for me, on this episode, it's more like the journey of childhood, um, and what has happened in my childhood going like I wholeheartedly I listen to a lot of these podcasts like I was telling you, and like I've gone to therapy, and a lot of this is relating to like, okay, going back to, there is a central, I don't want to say focal point, but there's a central reasoning as to why you are who you are, the way you're raised, you know, the environments that you were in. And a lot of this has to do with the person you are now, even relationships, personal relationships, and stuff like that with um other human beings, right? That um have a lot to do with how you are today, right? And so for me, I didn't have the worst upbringing in childhood, right? But I didn't have the best, best, in air quotes, because what is best? What is great? Like you can look at a house next door and think, oh, everything's fine there. They got a nice house, a nice car, a nice everything, but you don't know what's going on inside that house. So I didn't have like the worst upbringing. I mean, I got nice clothes at the beginning of the school year and nice shoes and whatever. And all that stuff. And but even then, there was a lot, like I had a stepdad that wasn't the nicest guy, and like for my mom to be with him that long throughout the years, um, she still now to this day is kind of like, oh, she feels guilty in a way. She's like, why was I with him that long? And she talks about it with me and my sister, and she's like, did it really affect you guys? Like, obviously she knows that, but she's wanting to hear it vocally through us. And, and I'm not meaning to bounce around, Will, a little bit, but I'm trying to give you a little, like, a brief synopsis of, like, what has happened leading up to today, like standing in the corner and, like, getting literally a belt to our butts, like, and writing like, why are you such a bad kid? Why am I bad? What happened? Like sometimes I'm questioning why the hell I was a bad kid, and I'm like having to stand in the corner. I will not, blah, 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 and it could have been like, talking down to my sister or something. And again, we're like kids. We're like kids will be kids at a point, but like how you go to that child and say, hey, you're not supposed to do this. What can we do differently to do this,
Hmm.
to be a good kid? Instead of going, you're a bad kid, get in the corner and stay there until you realize what you did. I'm like, I'm a kid still. I'm like, why am I in the corner? Because we didn't have this discussion of like, you shouldn't be doing this. This is what you should be doing. You know, Meanwhile, I'm in the corner, my butt has been paddled, it's sore, and I'm like writing why I shouldn't be bad, and it's not even helping at all. Like it didn't do anything for me. So stuff like that to like, you know, just general everyday things, again, not without getting too sidetracked, that were like confusing to me as a kid. Like there was drug use, not heavy. There wasn't prostitution running in and out of my house. There's that, there's extreme that wasn't happening, but there was light drug use, if you will, and friends that would come over, well, my mom's friends, and they would be using alcohol and stuff, and like sometimes regularly. And I'm like, man, this is a lot for me to see as a child. And like thinking back on it, I'm like, yeah, wow, this is a lot to take in sometimes, and then just repeatedly of that weekly,
Hmm.
multiple times a month sometimes. And then it would space out. Maybe it wouldn't happen for a few months and then it would happen again. And then this just repeated throughout the years, all the way up until high school and stuff. So it's just a lot of that happened. Now skip forward to like 2022, 23 is when I really wanted to tighten it up. Like
Hmm.
there was a lot of like questioning, like I'm in relationships and my relationships are only lasting anywhere from 3 months to a year. I haven't really had anything outside of my high school sweetheart lasting more than 5 years, 6 years. And it's like, even then, I think back on the high school sweetheart thing, like relationship, and that was not a good relationship. There was stuff that I did then, and it kind of like, if she were to listen to this podcast and see, she'd probably start crying and tear up. She'd be like, this guy, I think, has come a long way. This isn't the Jordan that he's literally letting the whole world know, like whoever listens to this podcast, that this guy was not a good guy back then, And like, again, going back to my point of bringing that up is like 3 months, 6 months, 1 year relationships. And I'm kind of scratching my head going, this is just a repeat process over and over again through different relationships with these ladies. And I'm like, I got to do something different. I myself have to listen or watch these podcasts. I have to go seek therapy and be like, get down to the core problem. What really has happened for me, you know? And for me, it was the childhood traumas. It was the childhood, you know, experiences that both me and my sister has herself had a journey in therapy, and seeing a therapist. And um, I won't go in too deep of her things too, because I'm not sure if she'd want me to publicly announce what is going on in her sphere. But there's stuff on both of our parts where it's just like us as humans, me and my sister in particular, and you yourself, we all had our journeys that like um bring us here today in this podcast and wanting to shed some light. I feel like I've overshared enough, Will, for right now, until you start picking my brain and you start doing a little bit this or that, and what I shared so far, and what is what you want to ask of me.
So I first off, Jordan, thank you for sharing that. It's not always easy to talk about our childhood. I had a two-parent household, but my dad was a Vietnam vet, and his way of getting through to us was actually physical compliance, the
Oh
belt,
wow.
or and my dad, even though he was supposed to be home, and I'm not beating up on my dad when I do this. My dad is deceased. After he had a lot of his mobility taken from him, he changed. He had to change.
Mm,
And my grandfather was the same way towards him as well. And my great grandfather was like that to my grandfather. And I actually had to think about this a lot. And this is one of the reasons I wanted to start this podcast is similar to what you were saying about relationships. So I didn't know how to really ask for help. And I thought it was the Marine Corps that jacked me up. But like yourself, talking about your childhood, it was an area that I had to learn about. And when I used to get angry, I used to get loud, just like how my dad did. Or I would throw something to show some type of fear. And I was not such a nice guy, and it helped lead to my divorce, and also led to a breakup.
oh wow.
And yeah, it was hard, and it was hard because I was repeating the same patterns, very similar to what you were alluding to. And how do those patterns really dictate how relationships were being given? And I felt like a lot of them were transactional because I couldn't trust people because I grew up in a what I felt like what was a normal household, but it wasn't. And the more that I look back at it, maybe from today's eyes and more maybe from a healthier mindset, it was a stuck point.
Mm,
And we can feel like we're throwing shame at my parents or your parents, but it's what did they only know back then? And it's kind of hard to always look at through their eyes from our childlike mindset. And I can definitely empathize when you're saying about your childhood and how it actually changed it. It's it created the pattern, it created the belief system of what you have.
yeah, it sure did. Yeah, it's and we're all different individuals. Your case, my case, very similar in that regard, but it's just like how I dealt with things and then how you dealt with things are two different ways, I'm sure, and same with anybody else in this sphere.
Like the way I got to the point, I've shared before in other ones. I started drinking. I used to smoke pot to help me sleep because of my nightmares. And I read a lot about stuff. Where when I say stuff, I read a lot of books about why do certain people develop PTSD more than others? Why does certain events impact us differently? And when I stopped wanting to be on that the merry-go-round of relationships and failures and setting myself up for that way, I had to. That's almost when I took my life. Actually, got really close, about 3 pounds away from it, and it allowed me to see the world differently because I had a different choice. So we both probably went at it differently, and it was
Yeah.
after I just made the conscious decision that hey, I'm going to change. I'm going to not do this anymore because if I am, I'm done. I'm just I'm over with. And I kept thinking about how these type of patterns create in all men's lives. A lot of us suffer in silence. I remember when I took off part of my finger with a hatchet. I didn't even make a noise because I'm like nobody cares. And that was exactly the way that I thought about life. How my pain, no one cared, and I was alone. But it was so hard for me to be able to convey my pain for somebody else to care.
I think, there's times where I relate. I have not gotten close to suicide and such, but so I commend you, and you know you should pat yourself on the back now, and for going through what you've gone through and where you're at today. That is amazing. And I mean, there's been times even this past couple of years where I'm just like, dude, I have a roller coaster ride of emotions. I'm up and down and like regulating certain feelings. And I'm like, man, sometimes I just, and it has a lot to play with of like how, for me in particular, of how, like what I'm doing for a job, whether I like it or not, the people I'm surrounded with and coworkers wise. And now it's like, I'm in the same job, not dealing with those roller coaster emotions. Why? I'm meditating daily, sometimes multiple times a day. Sometimes it could just be literally like a session where I'm literally just like, you know, hands wherever, and I'm just like breathing in positivity, exhaling negativity is what I've told friends of mine where I'm like, literally, if you just walk away from whatever's happening right at that moment, you walk away and you think that and you breathe in the positivity and exhale the negativity for just 10 seconds, 10 times, 30 seconds, a minute. Could be 5 minutes, whatever you have in your day to do that. And stop and smell the fresh roses or even listen to the birds chirp and stuff. That right there will just regulate certain emotions and certain things where I think this life is too good to just end it on your own account, right? Like there's just too much going on where I'm like, all right, the day will come whenever whoever you believe in is going to take it from me, whether I'm sleeping, whether I'm in the car or whatever, so it's like, in a car wreck or whatever. So I just, I don't know. For me, regulating my emotions and doing the little like thing like in life where it's like, uh, I'm like the roller coaster of emotions, just regulating them into like normalcy, if you will. And like,
Hmm.
instead of just letting your emotions take over you and you're along for the ride, you know? No, you're the conductor, you are the one that's controlling this flesh machine for the time being. Um, until you get to know that and you start to feel that, that's when you really kind of, you do, in a sense, have it all together. There's going to still be times that are trying and there's going to be this and that and others. Like, how do you roll with those punches, if you will? So without me oversharing or over talking, I feel like I'm going to do that a few times and just like reel it in, Jordan, because I'm not the
Jordan,
conductor of this podcast. You are.
it's more of what I like about this is you share as much as you want. You're not
Yeah.
oversharing. Your story is impactful, and sometimes when we allow ourselves to keep continue to talk, what we're doing is actually allowing our full thought to really process. And that's something I've learned by my job that I do now as a peer specialist for the VA, and helping prompt people to talk about things that are a little bit difficult where the emotions are trapped. You talked about how life is too good in a lot of ways. You started with meditation, 10 breaths in, good, 10 breaths out, you're releasing the bad. I'm oversimplifying what you're saying. And then listening to the birds chirping, being able to pay attention to where you're at, and you're able to ground yourself. And I think that's so important for anybody that does listen to this podcast about sometimes things are so hard. Maybe we just need to try a different skill set. Maybe we just need to listen to the birds. Maybe we just need to ground
Simplify
yourself.
things.
Maybe bingo.
Yeah.
And how many times do you catch yourself looking at your schedule like, hey, I got to go here, I got to go there, I got to go here, I got to go there, I got to please everybody. By the time that you get to these events that are supposed to be happy or enjoyable, you're just like overwhelmed. You're at a 7 instead of at a 4.
Yeah.
You start start off this we start off this podcast actually just playing around and playing phone tag for almost a month now, and
I'm sorry for that.
it's no, dude, hey, like it happens on its own time. You're able to listen into some of my stuff and give me some positive feedback. So honestly, the catastrophes happen for a reason, and I'm blessed for it.
And I'm here
And
for to help you in the future. I mean, not that you need the help, but like just again the constructive feedback and like I'll sit down with you again, in another month from now, a year from now, wherever, and go at it again and see where we're at. Like I could tell you some more stuff. We could focus on certain aspects and certain things, but I'm here for it, Will.
yeah, it's important actually because each time that we look at our own stories and we reflect on it, like we could talk about actually being in the Marine Corps and how our experiences are very different, or we could talk about a bunch of different stuff. And but how I saw the Marines in 2006 compared to what I see now in 2025, like we'll even just it's night and day.
Oh
It's
yeah.
like wow, I see some videos and I'm like wow, we were kids back then. Holy
Oh,
shit.
100%.
And man, even you and I butted heads a long time ago, and I'm glad that we were able to become friends afterwards. And the relationship was able to change because even then we were living at a heightened state. And if we're looking at life still through that trauma lens, we're living at a heightened state. We're not able to just enjoy the birds or be able to meditate.
Yeah.
So it's like going back and thinking about where we were, where we were at, and where we would like to be, and how are we going to get there in a safe manner.
Yeah. No, I mean, we didn't have I don't know, I don't want to say we didn't have the tools in the early 2000s, but I feel like there was a movement or a shift, if you will, like the Me Too movements. I mean, again, I'm just saying, all the things that have happened in the past 10, 15 years that have brought us to this point, us being this world and, normalizing and doing a lot, like bringing us here together today, um, and sharing this. There's a lot that has went on that's more, it is normalizing it in a sense. All these movements, all these things, all these, and here we are today just trying to help put all those puzzle pieces together in in this realm, in the podcast realm and for this particular, your lives, my life, my girlfriend's life, your close loved ones' lives too, like because we just wanted to get them to a place where how you and I feel more
Yeah.
uh you know regulated, emotions versus emotions that are just all haywire. And yeah, going back to the 20s, 20 us being in the Marines in those in that time, it's just like, and not having the tools or having the people that have had those tools that are like, hey, this is how you're feeling. It's okay. I'm here for you. I'm here to listen. I don't think I've had one person in the Marines that said, "Oh, you're feeling this? It's okay. I'm here for you." That wouldn't have been somebody in the Marines, anybody that I ran into saying that. I'm just like, "Oh, but that is trying to what we're trying to do here on the podcast and anybody listening, we're going, if you don't have anybody in your sphere right now that's going, I'm here for you. Here's a hug. Here's a shoulder to cry on. Then you need to reevaluate the people that you're around because the people that I'm around now are the people that would do that. And they are anything from the lady that I'm seeing now, Jennifer, thank you, to anybody else that's here to listen to me or them to me, them talking to me too. I'm like, coworkers too. I'm like, if they want to listen or they want to, or, they want to talk to me and I want to listen, I'm listening for anybody and everybody that literally just wants to pour, spill their guts to me. I'm like more compassionate than I've ever been now knowing what I know now, again with the podcast and the therapy, and not trying to beat that in, not to say that like therapy is the right thing for everybody, right? It might be podcasts, it might be books, it might be, and I've I've listened to a fair share of books I didn't mention earlier on Audible, right?
Hmm.
Whatever works for you, you should do, right? But again, going back to the sphere and those people, I feel like you need to create a good circle of friends and family and loved ones that are like literally going to be your boulder, right? The people that are really just going to help build you up and not let you roll down the hill and just crumble to, you know, people that you can rely on.
So,
Sorry,
question for you
that's my
then.
oversharing. I just stop. I'm like,
Dude,
gotta stop,
nah,
gotta
you
stop.
killed it. It was when I was thinking about when you were talking about hugs and helping people pour out, and they're pouring out to you, and being able to listen and being able to be seen. Like, if you think about a lot of the guys that we served with, based off of our childhood and your childhood, it, and then being able to communicate in the healing process. If you had the man in your life that you are now, that your stepdad was you now, think about how much different the course of life would be. Like,
Oh
would you have
God,
joined the Marine Corps? Do you think that you would have been able to process a lot of the other traumas differently if you didn't have these roadblocks? But you're
oh
able
yeah,
to have a guy in your life that loves you the way that you're able to love other people. How much life would be different?
well, it'd be dramatically different. I don't even know where I would be in this world, and that's okay, right? Everything happens for a reason. I can't look back on that and be like, oh, you know, I think that our journey is meant to be taken certain ways. I was meant to take the journey that I was, as a kid, and here I am today. Yeah, it would be. That is very interesting to look at it like that. And it's cool or nice that you brought that up like that, where like, I don't know that I would want it any other way because again, I do believe that what is meant to be will be, and you know, like now, especially now that I'm the one in the driver's seat and taking control and doing all this, that, and the other. But it would be, oh yeah, it's interesting to think about though. That is really neat to kind of like reflect upon and go, wow, I wonder where I would be in life. And if if I wouldn't have taken the Marine Corps route, I wouldn't be here today, possibly. Well, who knows? I might have bumped into you in the street and said, "Hey, what's going on?" Just struck up a conversation randomly somehow, because that's how I am, an extrovert, and I will do stuff like that. But um,
Because the
maybe
reason I
it could
bring this
be.
up too,
Yeah, it's neat. I think that's a really neat way to think about life and where you could be if certain stuff in your past didn't happen.
the reason I bring this up is because I think about how Carl Jung talked about this, Jordan Peterson talked about this, but
Mm,
other people have spoken about this too, where it's where you're being, if you really love people, you're being the best version of yourself. And the healing is actually allowing you to be the best version of yourself for other people. And you're able to heal from your past or healing still from your past traumas, past relationships, and past patterns to be
yeah.
able to give more to your girlfriend, give you more to the animals, give more to your friends. And the other part to it is that we don't realize how much more or how much the influence of our role models, our parents, our step parents, our brothers, our siblings, our friends, or even the TV that we ingest. If we were able to be met with love and kindness, we would probably be able to radiate the same amount to other people right now. Just we're able to see it from how trauma lens looks like. Oh, this person's in trauma. Maybe I can go talk to them a little bit differently, meet them with a
Yeah.
different types of kindness, and still being authentic. But, and I guess the leading area is, I believe actually why I want to help people start looking at it from let's heal together, is so that you can give that love to your friends, to your family, to your kids, to anything else around you. It's you healing is not just for you, it's for everybody else.
Oh yeah. Yeah, totally. I mean, we're here on this earth to do stuff like that, I believe, and to just be the more I could be good and the more that you could be good to yourself, we could be that to others. And then if they see that, they can use that example and spread it and just keeps going like a wildfire. And that's a good wildfire to have, you know, a wildfire of love, Will.
Bring it back
It,
to the
it
70s. Let's bring back Woodstock.
Just all the good stuff. You know, it's it's good. I think life is good, and I think that, yeah, it's being in a good mindset, and again, like just being kind to others and spreading that. And the more that you can do that, again, I don't want to sound like a broken record. The more that others will see that, hey, boy, this guy is always like this.
Hmm.
Why wouldn't I be like that to him? I mean, yeah, my girlfriend's in the back here now, but we have friends that are across the wall, literally neighbors that are not in the same community, but we can literally hop over, literally we have a stairs or the ladder, and we just crawl over it and we pull over the ladder on the other side to like go over there. And so there's a point. My point is the guy, the neighbor, he was in the army. He's all tattooed up and he's still rough around the edges, right? And I don't know if he's had the same journey. I know he hasn't. I know that for a fact. He hasn't had the same journey that you and I have had. And he's rough around the edges, but like Jennifer, my girlfriend, will say, like, hey, he has a heart and he's kind. And I've seen that now more so that I get to know him. And Um, you know, a Boston Terrier I was watching just the other week literally came up on his lap and he's loving it. And it brought him back to childhood. And this guy's loving on this dog. And this dog's licking him and loving on him too. And they're both doing, just love on each other. And that's another area that I saw, the guy really does have a heart. And, sometimes he's like, he mentions sometimes, but he's jokingly saying it like, I don't, I don't have a heart, or like, I'm like, I don't have feelings, I think is what he says. I don't have feelings. And I'm like, yeah, but you do. You do. He's still kind of trying to play the tough guy role, and like maybe still kind of here and there, and like again, he hasn't had the same journey that you and I have had. And I'm going back to, if I can keep being the guy that I am and show him without telling him, you need to go to therapy, you need to do this, you need to do that. That's too much for some people, most
Mm-hmm.
people, all the people. I'm not going to be that approach. I'm not going to approach it like that. I'm literally like showing him through example that I could be this way. And I just keep doing that. And I feel a little shift, little baby steps for him going like, well, if Jordan's like that, he was in the Marines and he shared certain trials and tribulations in the military like I did, then why can't I be like that to his kids and to his wife, or soon to be wife, his partner? Like why can't he be like that? So I feel like the more and more that we exemplify good things, positivity to others, and the way that I conduct myself through daily actions, to the store, being patient with somebody in front of you in line that's having troubles with their card or pulling out money or whatever, just having patience in life, to, someone like him, like showing not so good examples, and like, okay, just kind of, again, not telling him or her what to do, or them what to do, just like show good examples and be a good person, and hope that they take that and chew on it and can use it in their own life.
What's interesting is when I was hearing you talk about this guy and you talked about him and the dog and playing with it, you could see him just loving on it.
Oh yeah.
I re- I remember like how the trauma was kind of almost like it burned, it encapsulated my skins and it made it hard and everything else like agitated. And
Wow.
not learning how to process like the childhood, not learning how to process the trauma that you experienced in the military, or even the identity of the person being in the service, or being a Marine, being a soldier, trying to be this hard ass that you see on TV and you try to emulate it. And the the emotion that we typically went to, or at least I'll speak for myself, was anger. And this really good book, The Mountain Is You, going from self sabotagery to self mastery, was talking about the anger was just an overriding emotion to anything from happiness to sadness to any other spectrum of the emotion, going from a black and white mindset to a colorful mindset, and realizing that you are not your emotions. Your emotions are part of your experience, but learning how to, going back to the burn perspective of learning how to do bereavement, starting to peel them off, starting to allow new blood, new area to be able to, the oxygen to hit it, to be able to start to heal. And this scariness of it, if I take this off, am I still going to be the burn victim? If I take this off, am I still going to be that soldier or that Marine or that child? Like, is it okay for me to build a new identity? Is it okay for me to be able to show this type of love? Because it might freak people out because I have no control over it. Because I don't know about yourself, Jordan, but when I started opening up that door of emotions, it was like Pandora's box. I didn't know how to actually control it. It was just like hitting me left, right, and center.
Hmm.
And it was scary as hell. And like you're saying, emulating it. Also knowing how to use the words of saying, hey, this is going to suck. I tell a lot of the people I work with, I'm like, you're going to get kicked in the dick over and over again while you're doing this emotional journey, but it's worth it. It is
Yeah.
really, really worth it. And I'm going to remind them along the way that you're going to get hung up on the shoulds. Why you're going to, I should have done this sooner. I should have done this. And it's like, hey, be kind to yourself along the way. It's hard. This is hard friggin' work. You don't
Oh
know.
yeah.
You don't have many people that emulate this. How many people really show you this vulnerability as a male? And doing this, we can be able to help this soldier and his soon to be wife and his kids have a human back in their life instead of a pre-programmed robot.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm sitting here chewing on the words that you just said to me and just kind of like, yeah, it's like it's a point where taking going back to I believe that what we were brought on this earth to do, right? Like, of course, we're gonna have all experiences, and some of those experiences will kind of like sidetrack us into a certain realm, Marines or military, for example, and then getting back on track where, like, can you be in the army or military, period, and have a certain empathy and being empathetic? Well, sure, it doesn't matter what you do in this world, you can be empathetic, you can be loving, you can be this and that. And, you know, oh, there was one other thing that you mentioned, and I was just like, wow, that is, I wanted to touch base on that. Forgive me for a second. It's literally, it was, I loved it because I was like, I want to touch base or I want to expand upon what you just mentioned, but it was all right. My mind's racing 100 miles an hour. But yeah. So with all that said, um, yeah, yeah, I'm done. I'm done literally for right now, opening my mouth. I feel, oh, Jordan Peterson, I've read or I've listened, I follow him on Instagram and I've listened to a few of his podcasts. He's a good guy, really, really intelligent. That dude is cool. Um, so for all those you are listening right now to ours, hopefully Jordan Peterson can make an impact in your life too. Jordan Peterson is a very smart individual and has a lot of bright, bright things to say and put out there in the world for people to listen to. I mean, this guy's I'm sure he's got a doctorate. I think
He does.
you know, he does. The guy is just brilliant, brilliant, and you could learn so much from him. That's all I'm gonna say.
So with Jordan Peterson and Carl Jung, what I was saying was, if you really love somebody, you be the best version of yourself. So healing is actually telling other people that you love them.
Yeah, for yourself
Yeah,
first and
it's
foremost, and then you could take that and
but it's so
help others.
difficult though. It's so difficult when you're just saying, "Hey, I'm hurting. I don't know actually how to get help." But actually being the best version is like, what does that look like today? And knowing that each day could be different. Like if you're like myself, Jordan, especially for a while, and sometimes I still get these cranky nightmares or night terrors. It's like, hey, you know what? I'm a little bit off. What am I going to do today? I'm going to go wash the dishes. First thing I'm going to do is wash the dishes. So I get a small win. The thing I'm going to do is take a shower, brush my teeth, just get these small wins to get back on my feet when I get overridden with emotions and actually feeling like I'm down.
I
And
hope the
to
first thing
me,
that you do, Will, is make your bed. First and foremost, people out there, make your bed. There was a lieutenant, not to take your thunder right now, because I know you're. Please, please, this is one of
oh
those
no,
moments that
you
I want to interrupt and
go
just
ahead.
remember what you're about to say in that track, please. So there's a like a four, 3 or 4 star general, maybe more,
Admiral.
5 star, I think it goes admiral.
Yeah,
That
he was an admiral.
you know who I'm talking about, don't you? He was
He was Navy
talking to
SEAL.
like a bunch of people, and it was like a clip that I found on like Instagram or somewhere. And the guy's like talking to, and he's I don't know how many people are there, but he's talking in front of X amount of people, and he goes, the first thing that you should do when you wake up, that's the first thing, is make your bed. That's where you start, and then you brush your teeth, like you said, go do the dishes and fix up your house to where, and that's something that I do today is if I live in like a little bit of clutter, like for me is to like clear the clutter, do the dishes, do the laundry. Of course, make your bed when you get out of bed. That's the first thing you should do. It's just so easy. You literally roll out of bed or jump out of bed or karate kick out of bed, however you get out of bed, and make the bed, go brush your teeth or brush your teeth after breakfast. But yeah, anyways, you were saying before I rudely
So
interrupted.
the book is actually called Make Your Bed, and yes, you watched the clip, but it's actually a book, and it's by Admiral McRaven. Is
Oh, okay.
the name of the book?
Wow.
But I know that we're actually getting up on the time, and I wanted
Yeah.
to ask you two loaded questions before I get off. Is what were you hoping to get out of sharing your story or a bit of your story today on this podcast?
Two
And
loaded
two,
questions.
that
Good, Will. I
that's
love
one.
this.
Yeah, what were you planning to do, or what were you planning to accomplish by sharing your story today, or sharing your perspective today? And the
Okay, first
second
ask
one
me that.
is,
Don't ask me the second one yet. I want to answer that because I want to focus on
go
the
ahead.
question. To share with others my experiences. That's it. That's exactly it. The more and more that this job moves and gets out, like the better I feel. Hopefully people could digest it and go, okay, that helped me today. Maybe the from anything from the meditation or listening to podcasts. Hopefully something helped and resonated with you today that has helped me. That's first and foremost. That's exactly it. I won't say anything more. What was your second?
And the I guess the last little bit is, what were some of the little things that really resonated with you or really helped change you from being more being like a little bit more of a victim to being more of a champion?
Hmm, good question. Um, Self-realization. The more and more, the more that I dig deep and realize I need to fix X, Y, and Z, that that helps. Meditation. I keep expanding upon that, like meditation and also just like the breath work. The breath work helps me be a champion for myself because like as you guys probably see my energy on this podcast, you're literally listening to it or looking at me, in the video and going, boy, this guy's got a lot to share, but he's also like, like sometimes going all over the board. Breath work helps a lot for me. Meditation, breath work, and just like, um, well, the people in my sphere, particularly the girlfriend in this case too, and eventually my mom and my dad once, and that could be another episode, dad to be continued. But yeah, I think to be the champion stuff is just literally just like once you start the meditation and once you start the breath work, that really just helps regulate your emotions and just helps with X, Y, and Z that you're wanting to help elevate your game to be a champion. That really, I mean, helps. And that, to answer your second question, I feel like just that stuff and going back to what I said about the birds and stop and smell the roses and stuff like that, just simplifying stuff in life because a lot of life can be just a little bit overwhelming and too much sometimes. So you just gotta do that stuff.
Love you, Jordan, man. Thank you so much for your time, man. We'll do another
Love you
one.
too, Will. Yes, please.
Namaste.
I really want that. Namaste, Will. Now I gotta get off and regulate my emotions again because you got me all no. It's good. It's good. I like to be in this energy level right now in this beautiful day right now. And you know, I'm gonna do a little something for everybody watching and you know, real quick. I got this beautiful backyard and girlfriend that I absolutely adore and love. I appreciate your time today, Will, and you've been nothing but amazing and awesome. And keep up the hard work and all your trials and tribulations and everything, to this day will continue working on and being amazing.
Appreciate it, man. And I look forward to hearing some more feedback. And dude, I can't wait to get down to Arizona to give you a hug. I'll talk to you soon,
Oh,
big guy.
please, please do. I really want that. Long due. We're overdue on that.
Long due. All right, talk to you later.
Take care.